Imagine this, it's midnight, and a single candle flickers in the shadowy study of Waverly Manor. The air is thick with dread as the family huddles around a cold, empty safe. Their patriarch's will, the key to a fortune worth millions, has vanished without a trace. But here's the chilling part. The safe was locked, the room sealed, and the only key hung around the neck of a man who's now dead. A cryptic note lies on the desk, scrawled in haste, "Trust no one." Was it stolen by a traitor in the family? Or is something far darker at play? A secret so dangerous, it could tear the Waverly legacy apart. Enter Hercule Poirot, the brilliant detective whose little grey cells never fail. In Hercule Poirot cracks the case of the missing will in the Adventure of Johnnie Waverly. Every clue is a trap, and every suspect hides a lie. Buckle up for a mystery that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Hit that like button and subscribe. To unravel the truth with us, the story begins in the heart of the English countryside, where the grand Waverly Manor stands like a silent giant, its ivy-covered walls hiding years of family secrets. It's 1920s England, a time of elegance, but also of hidden tensions. Hercule Poirot, our Belgian detective with his perfectly waxed mustache and razor-sharp intellect, is enjoying a rare moment of peace in his London apartment when a frantic letter arrives. It's from Mrs. Eleanor Waverly, the matriarch of the Waverly family, pleading for his help. Her husband, Marcus Waverly, a wealthy landowner, passed away just weeks ago, and now his will, the document that decides who inherits his vast fortune, has disappeared from a locked safe in the manor's study. Without it, the family faces ruin as greedy relatives and shady lawyers circle like vultures. Poirot's curiosity is piqued. A missing will, a locked safe, this is a puzzle worthy of his little grey cells. Poirot wastes no time. He packs his suitcase, adjusts his impeccable suit, and heads to Waverly Manor with his loyal friend, Captain Hastings. The journey is quiet, but Poirot's mind is already buzzing, piecing together possibilities. When they arrive, the manor feels heavy with unease. Mrs. Waverly greets them, her face drawn with worry. She explains that the will was last seen in the safe, which only she and her late husband knew the combination to, yet when they opened it after his death, it was gone. The safe showed no signs of tampering and the room was locked tight. Poirot listens carefully, his eyes gleaming with interest. He knows that in every mystery, the truth hides in the details. As Poirot begins his investigation, he meets the key players, Johnnie Waverly, the young heir and Marcus's nephew who stands to inherit the estate if the will is found. Clara, the family's sharp-tongued cousin who seems oddly calm about the whole affair. And Mr. Grayson, the family lawyer whose nervous fidgeting catches Poirot's eye. The servants, too, seem to know more than they let on, especially the butler who avoids Poirot's piercing gaze. Poirot examines the study, a grand room lined with bookshelves, a heavy oak desk, and the iron safe that once held the will. He taps the safe thoughtfully, muttering about order and method. Hastings, ever the practical one, wonders if a burglar could have slipped in, but Poirot shakes his head. No, mon ami, he says. The answer lies not in force, but in cunning. This first chapter sets the stage for a classic Poirot mystery, full of twists and turns. The missing will is more than just a lost piece of paper. It's the key to unraveling a web of greed and secrets. As Poirot begins to dig deeper, you can feel the tension building. What clues will he uncover next? Stick around to find out in the next chapter, and if you're enjoying this mystery, give us a like and subscribe to follow Poirot's journey. Welcome back to Hercule Poirot cracks the case of the missing will in the Adventure of Johnnie Waverly. If you're just joining us, hit that subscribe button and check out Chapter 1 to catch up on this gripping mystery. Last time we left Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings arriving at the eerie Waverly Manor, where a missing will has thrown the wealthy Waverly family into chaos. The will, locked in a safe that only Marcus and Eleanor Waverly could access, has vanished without a trace, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Today, in Chapter 2, we're diving into Poirot's first steps in the investigation. He's sniffing out clues, sizing up suspects, and uncovering motives that lurk beneath the manor's polished surface. Get ready for some classic Poirot brilliance. His little grey cells are already hard at work. The morning after their arrival, Poirot is up early, his eyes sharp as he sips a cup of hot chocolate, his favourite, of course, because coffee just won't do for our meticulous detective. The manor is quiet, but the tension from last night still hangs in the air like a fog. Poirot and Hastings gather in the grand dining room, where the family is having breakfast, though no one seems to have much of an appetite. Mrs. Eleanor Waverly sits at the head of the table, her hands trembling. As she pours tea, Johnnie Waverly, the young heir, picks at his food, his boyish face clouded with worry. Clara, the sharp-tongued cousin, sits across from him, her eyes darting around the room as if she's watching for something or someone. Mr. Grayson, the family lawyer, is there too, nervously adjusting his glasses and muttering about legal complications. Even the butler, Mr. Simmons, hovers nearby, his stiff posture betraying a flicker of unease. Poirot takes it all in, his moustache twitching slightly as he observes every detail. The truth, mon ami, he whispers to Hastings, is in the little things, the glance, the gesture, the pause. Poirot begins his investigation with his usual method, order and precision. He asks Mrs. Waverly to walk him through the day the will was last seen. She explains that Marcus, her late husband, had called a family meeting in the study 2 weeks before his sudden death. The will was in the safe and he'd shown it to her, Johnnie, Clara, and Mr. Grayson to confirm its contents. It named Johnnie as the primary heir, with smaller shares for Clara and a few distant relatives. Mrs. Waverly swears the safe was locked that night, and no one entered the study afterward. But when they opened it after Marcus's death, the safe was empty except for a single sheet of paper with the words "Trust no one" scrawled in shaky handwriting. Poirot's eyes light up at this, a clue. Hastings, he says, but is it a warning or a distraction? Next, Poirot inspects the study again, this time with a magnifying glass in hand. The room is a picture of old money elegance, towering. Bookshelves, a gleaming oak desk, and heavy velvet curtains that block out the morning light. The safe, a sturdy iron box built into the wall, shows no scratches or dents, no sign of being forced open. Poirot kneels beside it, running his fingers along the edges. This safe, he murmurs, it is to perfect, non? A thief who leaves no mark is either a genius or someone who did not need to break in. Hastings suggests a professional burglar, but Poirot shakes his head. No, Hastings. A burglar takes jewels, money, not a single document. This is personal. Poirot turns his attention to the desk, where he finds a faint scratch on the wood near the edge. It's barely noticeable, but to Poirot, it's like a neon sign. He examines it closely, then looks at the window nearby. The latch is secure, but he notices a tiny smudge of dirt on the sillod for a room kept spotlessly clean. He jots this down in his little notebook, muttering, "The smallest things speak the loudest." Hastings, trying to keep up, asks if the dirt means someone climbed in, but Poirot only smiles. Patience, mon ami. We collect the pieces first, then we build the puzzle. Now it's time to talk to the suspects, and Poirot starts with Johnnie Waverly. The young man, barely in his 20s, has the nervous energy of someone who's just inherited the weight of a legacy. He tells Poirot he was in London the week the will went missing, visiting friends, and only returned after his uncle's death. I didn't even want the estate, Johnny says, his voice cracking. It's too much pressure. But Uncle Marcus believed in me. Poirot nods, his eyes studying Johnny's face. Is he genuinely overwhelmed? Or is there guilt behind those wide eyes? Poirot asks for the names of Johnny's London friends, noting them down with a polite "Merci, monsieur." Next up is Clara, the cousin with a sharp tongue and an even sharper gaze. She lounges in an armchair, twirling a strand of hair as she answers Poirot's questions. I don't care about the will, she says coolly. I've got my own money. But Poirot notices her fingers tighten around her teacup when he mentions the safe. She claims she was in her room reading the night the will was last seen, with no one to confirm her story. Poirot presses her gently, asking if she ever saw Marcus open the safe. Clara hesitates just a split second, but Poirot catches it. No, she says finally, but he was always so secretive about it. Poirot smiles politely, but his mind is racing. A hesitation he knows is off in the shadow of a Leidotmer. Grayson, the lawyer, is a bundle of nerves when Poirot questions him. He insists he only saw the will during the family meeting and had no access to the safe afterward. I'm just trying to keep the estate from falling apart. He stammers, wiping sweat from his brow. Poirot asks about the trust no one note, and Grayson pales. I don't know who wrote it. He says, maybe Marcus. Poirot's mustache twitches. A nervous man is not always guilty, but he is always interesting. Finally, Poirot speaks to the butler, Mr. Simmons, who's been with the family for decades. Simmons is stiff, formal, and avoids eye contact. He claims he cleaned the study the morning of the family meeting but didn't touch the safe. Poirot asks if he noticed anything unusual that day, a stranger, a sound, anything. Simmons shakes his head, but his hands fidget behind his back. Poirot doesn't push further, but he makes a mental note. The butler knows something. And Poirot will find out what dot as the day draws to a close. The study at Waverly Manor is bathed in the soft glow of oil lamps as the family gathers. Their faces a mix of curiosity and unease. Hercule Poirot stands near the oak desk, his small frame commanding the room with quiet authority. Captain Hastings hovers by the door, watching the suspects closely, Mrs. Eleanor Waverly clutching her handkerchief. Johnnie Waverly, shifting nervously in his chair, Clara, her eyes narrowed like a cat's. Mr. Grayson, the lawyer, wiping his glasses for the third time, and Mr. Simmons, the butler, standing stiffly in the corner. The air feels heavy, as if the walls themselves are holding their breath. Poirot clears his throat, his voice calm but deliberate. Mesdames et messieurs, he begins. I have called you here because the truth about the missing will is closer than you think. Tonight, I observe, I listen, and perhaps I provoke. His eyes scan the room, lingering on each face just long enough to make them squirm. Poirot's announcement is simple but calculated. He claims to have found a clue that points to someone in this very room. He doesn't say what it is, only that it suggests the will never left the study. The reaction is immediate. Mrs. Waverly gasps, her hand flying to her chest. Johnny's eyes widen, and he leans forward, stammering, "But how? The safe was empty." Clara smirks, crossing her arms, but her foot taps restlessly. Mr. Grayson drops his glasses, fumbling to pick them up, while Simmons, the butler, stares at the floor, his jaw tight. Poirot watches it all, his little grey cells cataloguing every twitch, every glance. He's not sure yet who took the will, but he knows this little performance will shake loose something new. The mind, he says softly to Hastings, reveals itself when it is surprised. After dismissing the group, Poirot lingers in the study, his fingers tracing the scratch on the desk he found earlier. He's convinced it's no accident. He kneels, examining the floorboards beneath the desk, and notices something curious. A tiny splinter of wood, freshly broken near one of the desk's legs. It's almost invisible, but to Poirot, it's a beacon. He crawls under the desk, his pristine suit brushing the dusty floor, and finds a faint outline in the wood, a hidden panel, cleverly disguised. With a gentle press, it clicks open, revealing a small compartment. Inside is a single key, old and tarnished. Not for the safe, but for something else. Poirot holds it up, his eyes gleaming. Mon ami, he says to Hastings, this is no ordinary key. It unlocks a secret, perhaps not the will, but a step toward it. Hastings is baffled. A key? But for what? The safe doesn't use a key. Poirot chuckles, slipping the key into his pocket. Patience, Hastings. A house like Waverly Manor is full of locked doors, some we see, some we do not. He decides to keep this discovery quiet for now, suspecting the key might lead to a hidden safe or a locked drawer elsewhere in the manor. But who hid it and why? Was it Marcus Waverly, protecting his will from prying eyes? Or someone else, covering their tracks? Poirot shifts his focus to the suspect's alibis. Starting with Johnnie Waverly, he tracks down the young heir in the Manor's library, where Johnnie is flipping through a book he's clearly not reading. Poirot sits beside him, his tone gentle but probing. Monsieur Johnnie, you say you were in London when the will vanished. Yet, I wonder, did you return to the Manor sooner than you claim? Johnnie's face flushes, and he stammers, no. I was gone all week. My friends can vouch for me. But his eyes dart to the side, a classic sign of unease. Poirot doesn't push, instead asking about Marcus's habits. Johnnie reveals that his uncle was paranoid in his final days, often checking the safe and muttering about betrayal in the family. Poirot nods, filing this away. Paranoia, he knows, often has a root in truth. Next, Poirot corners Clara in the garden, where she's pruning roses with a bit too much force. Her sharp wit is on full display as she deflects his questions. Why would I steal the will? She snaps. I'd rather leave this gloomy place than fight over it. But Poirot notices her gloves new, expensive, and out of place for a cousin who claims to care little for wealth. He asks if she ever saw Marcus write the trust no one note. Clara laughs, a bit too loudly. That sounds like him, always so dramatic. But her laughter fades when Poirot mentions the scratch on the desk. Her pruning shears pause mid-snip, and she quickly changes the subject. Poirot smiles politely, but inside, he's circling her like a hawk. A nervous reaction he thinks is a clue in itself. Dotma. Grayson is next, and Poirot finds him in the drawing room, poring over legal papers. The lawyer is a mess, his tie askew and his hands shaking as he explains the estate's dire situation without the will. If we don't find it, creditors will swoop in, he says, his voice high-pitched. Poirot asks about the family meeting, where the will was last seen. Grayson insists he only glanced at the document, but he lets slip that Marcus argued with Clara that day about her extravagant lifestyle. Poirot's ears perk up, an argument, a motive perhaps. He presses Grayson about the note in the safe, and the lawyer stammers. I assumed Marcus wrote it. He was unwell. Poirot's mustache twitches. Unwell or afraid of someone. Close, the butler, Mr. Simmons, is harder to pin down. Poirot finds him polishing silver in the pantry. His movements precise, but his eyes guarded. Poirot asks about the study's cleaning routine. Probing for inconsistencies, Simmons claims he dusted the room the morning of the family meeting but didn't touch the desk or safe. Yet, when Poirot mentions the dirt on the windowsill, Simmons freezes just for a moment. Dirt? He says, I keep that room spotless. Poirot nods, feigning agreement, but his mind is racing. A A spotless room with dirt on the sill. Either Simmons is lying, or someone entered the study after his cleaning daughter's night falls. Poirot takes a walk through the manor's halls, the key from the hidden compartment burning a hole in his pocket. He pauses. The figure in the hallway pauses at the study door, their silhouette barely visible in the dim moonlight filtering through a window. Hercule Poirot, hidden in the shadows with Captain Hastings, holds his breath, his sharp eyes locked on the intruder. The clock in the distance chimes midnight, each note echoing like a warning. The figure fumbles with something, a key, perhaps, and the study door creaks open. Poirot nudges Hastings, whispering, "Now, mon ami, we observe, but we do not. Strike not yet." Hastings grips his flashlight, itching to leap out. But Poirot's steady hand keeps him still. The door closes behind the figure, and soft footsteps echo inside the study. Whoever it is, they're searching for something, and Poirot is determined to find out what, silently. Poirot and Hastings creep closer, pressing themselves against the wall. Poirot signals for Hastings to stay quiet, then peers through the keyhole. Inside, the figure moves cautiously, their face hidden in the darkness. They're at the desk, running their hands along its edges. Just where Poirot found the scratch and the hidden compartment, the figure pauses, as if sensing something, then moves to the safe, tugging at its handle. No luck, it's still locked. Tight. Poirot's mind races. Is this the thief returning to the scene, or someone else desperate to find the will? The figure mutters something under their breath, too low to hear, then slips out of the study and vanishes down the hall before. Poirot can follow. Hastings whispers, "Who was that?" Poirot's eyes gleam. That Hastings is a question we will answer by morning. Back in their guest room, Poirot paces, the tarnished key from the hidden compartment still in his pocket. He pulls out Marcus Waverly's notebook, flipping to the line about the shadow moves at midnight. This was no coincidence. He says, tapping the page, "Someone in this house knows more than they admit, and tonight they betrayed themselves." Hastings suggests it was the butler, Simmons, given his nervous behavior, but Poirot isn't convinced. The butler is a possibility, but we must not jump to conclusions. The shadow could be anyone or more than one. He decides to set a trap, using the notebook and the key to draw the culprit out. But first, he needs more information. About the night that will vanish. The next morning, Poirot gathers everyone for breakfast. His demeanor calm, but his questions sharp. He starts with Mrs. Waverly, asking about Marcus's final days. She hesitates, her eyes red from sleepless nights. He was distant, she admits. He kept saying someone was watching him, but he wouldn't name names. Poirot leans forward, his voice gentle. "And the note, madam, that trust no one in the safe." Was it his handwriting? Mrs. Waverly frowns, unsure. It looked like his, but it was shaky. Not like him at all. Poirot nods, storing this detail away. A shaky hand could mean fear, illness, or a forgery. Next, he turns to Johnnie, who's barely touched his toast. "Monsieur Johnnie, your uncle spoke of betrayal. Did he ever mention a specific person?" Johnnie shakes his head, but his fingers drum nervously on the table. "He just said to be careful, that not everyone was who they seemed." Poirot's mustache twitches, vague words, but they point to a family divided by secrets. He notices Clara watching Johnnie closely, her lips pressed into a thin line. Is she suspicious of him, or hiding her own guilt? Poirot then questions Mr. Grayson, who's sweating despite the cool morning. "You mentioned an argument between Marcus and Clara." Poirot says, his tone casual but piercing. "What was it about?" Grayson stammers. "Oh, just family matters. Clara wanted money for some business venture and Marcus refused." Clara snorts from across the table. "He was stingy, that's all." Thought I'd waste his precious fortune. Her defiance feels rehearsed and Poirot makes a mental note. An argument over money is a classic motive, but is it too obvious? Simmons, the butler, serves coffee in silence, but Poirot doesn't let him escape. Monsieur Simmons, you cleaned the study the morning of the family meeting. Did you see anyone linger afterward? Simmons keeps his eyes on the coffee pot. No, sir. Everyone left together, but his voice is tight and Poirot catches a glance between him and Mrs. Waverly. Loyalty to the family, perhaps, or something more. After breakfast, Poirot returns to the study, determined to uncover more about the midnight intruder. He examines the desk again, focusing on the hidden compartment. The splintered wood suggests it was opened recently, but by whom? He checks the safe once more, noticing a faint smudge on the dial, not dirt, but wax as if from a candle. Interesting, he murmurs. Someone worked here in the dark, careful not to be seen. Hastings suggests checking the manor's candle supply, and Poirot agrees. They find the housekeeper, Mrs. Dobbs, who confirms that several candles went missing from the pantry last week. Odd, she says. Since we've plenty of lamps, Poirot's eyes light up. A candle means secrecy, a plan executed in the dead of night. Poirot decides to explore Marcus's bedroom again, hoping the notebook's cryptic entries hold more clues. He and Hastings search every corner, from the wardrobe to the floorboards, under the bed. Poirot finds a small, locked box, barely the size of a book. The tarnished key fits perfectly, and inside is a single letter, sealed with red wax. It's addressed to my dear Eleanor and dated the day before Marcus's death. Poirot opens it carefully, reading aloud, "If you find this, I am gone, and the will is in danger. Look to the one who asks too many questions. They know more than they say." Hastings gasps. A clue from beyond the grave. Poirot frowns, his mind racing. The letter is vague, but it points to someone curious, someone probing perhaps the midnight shadow. Poirot decides to test the suspects again, this time with a bolder move. He announces at lunch that he's found a letter from Marcus that changes everything. He watches their reactions closely. Mrs. Waverly's eyes fill with tears. Johnny looks confused. Clara's fork freezes mid-air. Grayson chokes on his water and Simmons spills a drop of soup. Poirot doesn't reveal the letter's contents, only saying, "The truth will come out soon, Ms. Amos." He's baiting them, hoping to flush out the guilty party. As the meal ends, he notices Clara slip out quietly, heading toward the garden. Suspicious, he asks Hastings to keep an eye on her while he follows another lead. Poirot heads to the manor's attic, where old family records are stored. He spends hours poring over dusty ledgers, looking for anything that might explain Marcus's paranoia. He finds a document from 10 years ago showing a loan Marcus gave to a distant cousin, Edward Waverly, who was cut from the will after a falling out. Edward hasn't been mentioned, but Poirot wonders if he's lurking in the background, perhaps working with someone in the house. The rustle in the bushes grows louder as Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings crouch near the garden door, their eyes fixed on the shadowy figure moving toward the old stables. The night is still, the only sound the faint crunch of gravel underfoot. Poirot's heart beats steadily, his mind sharp as a blade. The stables, long abandoned since Marcus Waverly sold his horses years ago, have been overlooked in the investigation until now. The figure pauses at the stable door, glancing around before slipping inside. Poirot whispers to Hastings we follow, but with care, mon ami. The fox is close, and it is nervous. Hastings nods, gripping his flashlight, and they move silently. Across the lawn, the moonlight casting long shadows behind them, the stable door is ajar, a faint glow flickering inside. Poirot peers through a crack in the weathered wood and sees the figure a man. judging by the broad shoulders rummaging through a pile of old crates. The man's face is hidden, but his movements are frantic as if time is running out. Poirot signals Hastings to stay back, then creeps closer, his polished shoes silent on the dirt floor. The man pulls a small box from the crates, fumbles with it, then curses under his breath when it won't open. Before Poirot can get a better look, a twig snaps under Hastings' foot, and the man bolts, dropping the box and vanishing into the night. Poirot sighs, exasperated. Hastings, your enthusiasm, it is admirable, but your feet, they are loud. They retrieve the box, which is locked but small enough to fit in Poirot's hand. It's old, with rusted hinges and a faint monogram, M.W. Marcus Waverly. Poirot's eyes gleam. This, Hastings, is no coincidence. The stables. They hide what the manor conceals. Back in their room, Poirot tries the tarnished key from the hidden desk compartment. It fits and the box opens, to reveal a bundle of letters tied with string. They're written by Marcus, addressed to someone named E.W., possibly Edward Waverly, the distant cousin mentioned in the attic records. The letters speak of a debt, a betrayal, and a promise to make things right. One line chills Poirot: "If I die, Edward, the will is your burden." Hastings gasps. Edward's involved, but he's not here. Poirot shakes his head. Or is he? Mon ami, a ghost does not always stay in the grave. The next morning, Poirot decides to confront Clara about her suspicious behavior in the garden. He finds her in the drawing room, sketching with a charcoal pencil, her face a mask of indifference. Mademoiselle Clara, he begins, his tone polite but firm. You burned something last night. Paper, perhaps a letter. Clara's pencil stops, but she recovers quickly, laughing. Just old receipts, Monsieur Poirot. Nothing exciting. Poirot smiles, unconvinced. Yet, you chose the garden in secret, at night. Curious, non? Clara's eyes flash, but she says nothing, turning back to her sketch. Poirot notices it's a drawing of the stables oddly detailed for someone who claims to care little about the estate. He makes a mental note. Clara knows more than she's letting on. Poirot then seeks out Mrs. Waverly, showing her the letters. From the box, her face pales as she reads the initials E.W. Edward Waverly. She whispers, Marcus's cousin. They were close once, but Edward gambled away his share of the family fortune. Marcus cut him off years ago. She confirms Edward hasn't been seen at the manor in a decade, but Poirot suspects he's closer than anyone thinks. He asks if Marcus ever mentioned hiding the will elsewhere, and Mrs. Waverly shakes her head, tears welling up. He only said it was safe, that no one would find it. Poirot nods, his mind racing, a hidden will. A secret box, a banished cousin. The pieces are coming together, but the puzzle is far from complete. Next, Poirot visits the village post office, hoping to trace Edward's recent letter found in the attic. The postmaster, an elderly man with a sharp memory, recalls a stranger sending a letter to the manor a month ago. Tall, scruffy, with a scar on his cheek, he says, didn't give a name. Poirot's heart quickens. A scar? None of the suspects match the description, but it could be Edward or an accomplice. Back at the manor, Poirot questions Simmons, the butler, about visitors. Simmons insists no strangers have come, but his hands tremble slightly as he polishes a candlestick. Poirot presses, mentioning the scar, and Simmons flinches. I don't recall, sir. He stammers. Poirot's eyes narrow. Another lie, or fear. That afternoon, Poirot and Hastings return to the stables, searching for more clues. The crates are filled with junk old tack, rusted tools, but Poirot finds a hidden nook behind a loose board. Inside is a torn photograph of two men, Marcus, younger and smiling, and another man with a scar on his cheek. Edward, Poirot murmurs. The photograph is dated 10 years ago. but the nook looks recently disturbed. Someone's been here, hiding or seeking something. Poirot wonders if the will itself is hidden in the stables, but a thorough search yields nothing more. The fox is clever. He tells Hastings, but we are closing in. As evening approaches, Poirot decides to test the suspects again. He gathers them in the dining room, casually mentioning the box from the stables and the letters naming Edward. The reactions are telling. Mrs. Waverly looks shocked, Johnny confused, Clara tense, Grayson pale. And Simmons drops a tray, the crash echoing in the silence. Poirot doesn't reveal the letter's contents, only saying the past is not as far away as you think. He's watching, waiting for someone to slip. Later, he overhears Clara whispering to Johnny in the hall, urging him to stay quiet. About what? Poirot's little grey cells are buzzing. Is Clara protecting Johnny, or manipulating him? As night falls, Poirot plans another watch, this time at the stables. He suspects the midnight shadow will return, drawn by the box or the letters. The manor's secrets are unraveling, but danger is growing. Who is Edward Waverly? And what is his connection to the missing will? The truth is near, but the shadows are deeper than ever. The stables are shrouded in darkness as Poirot and Hastings take their positions. Behind a stack of hay bales, the cold night air biting at their faces. The manor looms in the distance, its windows dark except for a single light in Mrs. Waverly's room. Poirot's eyes are fixed on the stable door, the tarnished key and Marcus's letters tucked safely in his coat. He's certain the midnight shadow will return, lured by his mention of the box at dinner. The guilty, he whispers to Hastings, cannot resist the bait when it dangles before them. Hastings shivers, clutching his coat tighter, but his excitement is palpable. The clock tower chimes midnight, and the wait begins. Minutes pass like hours. The only sound the rustle of leaves in the wind. Then, a faint creak, the stable door opens. A figure slips inside, moving with purpose. Poirot squints, trying to make out their face, but the darkness hides them. The figure heads straight for the nook where Poirot found the photograph, their hands searching frantically. Poirot signals Hastings to move closer, and they creep forward, silent as shadows. The figure pulls something from the nook, a small, folded paper, and tucks it into their pocket. Before Poirot can act, the figure turns, catching a glimpse of movement. They bolt, but this time Poirot is ready. Now Hastings. He hisses and they give chase. The figure sprints across the lawn, weaving through the garden. Hastings, faster on his feet, gains ground, but the figure is agile, ducking behind a hedge. Poirot, puffing slightly, catches up just as the figure trips, dropping the paper. Hastings grabs it, and the figure scrambles to their feet, disappearing into the woods. Poirot, panting, examines the paper under his flashlight. It's a map, hand-drawn, showing the manor and stables with an X marked near the old oak tree in the garden. Won't do. Poirot murmurs, the will, perhaps, or another piece of the puzzle. Hastings is frustrated. We almost had them. Who was it? Poirot shakes his head, their face. It was hidden, but their haste betrays them. Back in their room, Poirot studies the map. Its lines crude but precise. The oak tree is ancient, its gnarled roots sprawling across the garden. Could the will be buried there? Poirot's mind races through possibilities, but he's wary. The map could be a trap meant to mislead him. He decides to investigate at dawn, when the light is better and the manor is quiet. For now, he locks the map in his suitcase, alongside the letters and key. We must be cautious, Hastings, he says. The fox knows we are close. The next morning, Poirot and Hastings slip out to the garden, armed with a small shovel. The oak tree looms over them, its branches casting eerie shadows. Poirot examines the ground near the X on the map, noticing disturbed soil, as if someone dug here recently. They start digging, and after a few minutes, their shovel hits something hard, a metal box, smaller than the one in the stables but heavy. Poirot opens it with trembling hands, revealing a single document, yellowed but intact. It's not the will, but a codicil, a legal amendment to the will, signed by Marcus. It states that if the will is lost, the estate goes to Johnny, but only if he marries within a year. Otherwise, it passes to Clara. Poirot's eyes widen. A motive, Hastings, this changes everything. Poirot decides to keep the codicil secret for now, suspecting it will draw the thief out. He confronts Johnny in the library, watching his reaction closely. "Monsieur Johnny, did your uncle ever speak of conditions for your inheritance?" Johnny looks puzzled, shaking his head. "No, he just said I'd get the estate," but his fingers fidget, and Poirot senses he's holding something back. Could Johnny know about the codicil, or is he hiding another secret? Next, Poirot finds Clara in the conservatory, tending to her plants. He mentions the oak tree casually, watching her face. A fine tree, a good place to hide something. Perhaps. Clara's smile falters and she grips her trowel tightly. "I wouldn't know," she says, but her voice is strained. Poirot presses further, asking about her argument with Marcus over money. Clara snaps, "He thought I was reckless, but I just wanted to live my life." Her outburst feels genuine, but Poirot wonders if it's a performance. Grayson, the lawyer, is next, and Poirot catches him in his room, packing papers as if preparing to leave. "Going somewhere, Monsieur Grayson?" Poirot asks, his tone deceptively mild. Grayson jumps, dropping a folder. "Just organizing," he mumbles. Poirot mentions the codicil without revealing its contents, and Grayson's face drains of color. "A codicil? I never saw one." But his shaking hands betray him. Poirot suspects Grayson knows more about the estate's legal twists than he admits. Simmons, the butler, is polishing silver again when Poirot approaches. He asks about the oak tree, mentioning the disturbed soil. Simmons claims he tends the garden but hasn't dug there. The tree's roots are too deep, he says, avoiding Poirot's gaze. Poirot notices a smudge of dirt on Simmons' cuff, fresh, not from polishing. Another lie, or just a gardener's habit. As evening falls, Poirot gathers the suspects in the drawing room, announcing he's found a new document that sheds light on the will. He watches their faces. Mrs. Waverly looks hopeful, Johnny nervous, Clara tense, Grayson sweaty, and Simmons rigid. Poirot's trap is set, but the fox is still out there watching the codicil. The map, the shadow will point to a truth buried deep in the manor's secrets. Who will break first? The night promises more revelations, and Poirot is ready. The will is close, he can feel it, but so is danger. What lies beneath the oak tree's shadow? Stick around to find out, and if you're loving this mystery, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop your theories in the comments. The fox is running, but Poirot is gaining. The drawing room at Waverly Manor hums with tension as Hercule Poirot stands before the gathered suspects, his small frame radiating authority. The fire crackles in the hearth, casting flickering shadows on the faces of Mrs. Eleanor Waverly, Johnny, Clara, Mr. Grayson, and Simmons the butler. Poirot holds the codicil from the oak tree box, its yellowed paper a silent accusation. He hasn't revealed its contents, but his earlier announcement about a new document has set everyone on edge. "Mesdames et messieurs," he begins, his voice steady, "the truth about the missing will draws near. But first, I must ask, why does someone in this room fear the light of day?" His eyes sweep the group, catching every flinch, every tightened jaw. Mrs. Waverly breaks the silence, her voice trembling. "Monsieur Poirot, please, if you know something, tell us. I can't bear this uncertainty." Poirot nods sympathetically, but turns to Clara, whose fingers are twisting a handkerchief into knots. Mademoiselle Clara, you burned a paper in the garden. Was it to hide a secret? Clara's eyes flash with defiance. I told you. It was nothing old letters, that's all. But her voice wavers and Poirot presses on. Letters, perhaps, like those of Edward Waverly, who demanded money from Marcus. Clara freezes, her face paling. The room goes quiet and Poirot knows he's struck a nerve. He turns to Johnnie, whose boyish face is etched with worry. Monsieur, Johnnie, the codicil states you must marry within a year to inherit. Did you know this? Johnnie shakes his head, his voice barely a whisper. No, I swear. Uncle Marcus never told me. But his eyes dart to Clara and Poirot catches the glance. Is Johnnie protecting someone or afraid of them? Mr. Grayson, the lawyer, fidgets, his glasses fogging with sweat. A codicil. He stammers. That's irregular. I should have been informed. Poirot's mustache twitches, yet you seem unsurprised, monsieur. Why is that? Grayson mumbles something incoherent and Poirot moves on his gaze, landing on Simmons. The butler stands rigid, his hands clasped tightly. And you, Monsieur Simmons? The dirt on your cuff, does it come from the oak tree, perhaps? Simmons' eyes widen, but he says nothing, his silence louder than words. Poirot paces, his voice rising. The will was not stolen by an outsider. No. It was taken by someone who knew the safe, the study, the manor secrets, the codicil, the map, the letters. They all point to one truth: betrayal. He pauses, letting the word hang in the air. Then, unexpectedly, Clara stands, her chair scraping the floor. Enough, she cries, her voice cracking. I can't keep this up. I burned a letter from Edward because he's been writing to me. The room gasps, and Mrs. Waverly clutches her chest. Clara continues, tears streaming down her face. He begged me to help him get back into the family. He said Marcus owed him, that the will was unfair. I didn't steal it, I swear, but I didn't want anyone to know I'd been in touch with him. Poirot's eyes narrow. And where is Edward now, mademoiselle? Clara shakes her head, sobbing. I don't know. He wrote last week, saying he was close, but I haven't seen him. Poirot studies her, unsure if her tears are genuine, or a performance. A confession, yes, but not the full truth. He turns to the others. Does anyone else wish to speak before I reveal more? The silence is deafening, but Grayson's hands shake so violently he drops his pen. Poirot makes a mental note. The lawyer is cracking. After the confrontation, Poirot and Hastings retreat to their room to analyze the map and codicil again. The map sex under the oak tree led to the codicil, but Poirot suspects the will itself is still hidden. He rereads Marcus's letter from the locked box, the one warning about the one who asks too many questions. Could it be Clara, probing for Edward's share? Or Grayson with his nervous questions about the estate? Poirot murmurs, the shadow moves at midnight, but the shadow has a partner. Hastings is confused. A partner? You mean the people are involved? Poirot nods. We, Hastings, want to steal, want to hide. The will is close, but we must find the second player. Poirot decides to search the manor's west wing. Rarely used since Marcus's death. He and Hastings explore dusty corridors, checking locked rooms. In a forgotten guest room, Poirot notices a loose floorboard under a rug. He pries it up, revealing a small cache of papers, not the will, but bank records showing payments from Marcus to an unknown account in London, signed E.W. Edward again. Poirot says, his voice grim. He was not just a ghost, he was a leech. The records stop a month before Marcus's death, suggesting a falling out. Did Edward steal the will in revenge, or is someone else using his name? That afternoon, Poirot questions Simmons again, this time in the pantry. He mentions the dirt on Simmons' cuff and the oak tree. Simmons stiffens, insisting he's only a gardener on occasion, but Poirot notices a keyring on Simmons' belt, with one key matching the tarnished one from the desk. "This key, monsieur," Poirot says, holding up his own. "It opens secrets, does it not?" Simmons pales, stammering. "It's just for the cellar, sir." Poirot lets it go, but he's certain Simmons is hiding something, perhaps the will's location as night. Falls, Poirot sets another trap. He spreads a rumor through Mrs. Waverly that he's found a clue in the West Wing, hoping to lure the shadow. He and Hastings hide in the guest room near the loose floorboard. The clock nears midnight, and footsteps echo in the hall. A figure enters, hooded and silent, and kneels by the floorboard. Poirot steps forward, his voice sharp. "Stop, monsieur." The figure freezes, then turns, revealing a scarred cheek in the moonlight. "Edward Waverly," Poirot says, his heart racing. The man bolts, but Hastings tackles him, pinning him down. Edward curses, struggling. "You don't understand." He shouts, "The will isn't what you think." Who is Edward working with, and where is the will? The net is tightening, but the mystery is far from solved. Poirot's trap has caught a fox, but is it the right one? Edward Waverly struggles under Hastings' grip, his scarred face twisted with defiance as Poirot stands over him, his eyes blazing with intensity. The guest room is dim, the only light a lantern Poirot holds, casting sharp shadows on the walls. "Monsieur Edward," Poirot says, his voice calm but cutting, "you have been a ghost too long. Where is the will, and who is your accomplice?" Edward laughs bitterly, his breath ragged. "You think you've caught me, Poirot. The will's gone, and you'll never find it." Hastings tightens his hold, but Poirot raises a hand, signaling. Restrained. "We shall see, monsieur." The truth, it always finds a way. They escort Edward to the drawing-room, where Mrs. Waverly, woken by the commotion, gasps at the sight of her husband's cousin. "Edward, you're behind this?" she cries. Poirot sits Edward down, his demeanor polite but unyielding. He begins, questioning, piecing together Edward's role. Edward admits he came to the manor a month ago, desperate for money after Marcus cut him off. "He owed me," Edward snarls. "I helped him build this estate, and he tossed me aside like rubbish." He claims he didn't steal the will, but knew it was missing when he arrived. "Someone else got to it first," he says, his eyes darting. To the door, Poirot catches the glance. "And this someone, you know them, we—" Edward clams up, his jaw tight. Poirot turns to the clues, the codicil, the map, the letters, and now Edward's presence. He suspects Edward was working with someone inside the manor, someone who knew the safe's combination. He asks Mrs. Waverly to join them, showing her the bank records from the West Wing. "These payments to Edward, did you know of them?" She shakes her head, stunned. "Marcus never told me. He said Edward was trouble." Poirot nods, his mind racing. If Marcus kept secrets from his wife, what else did he hide? Poirot decides to search Edward's belongings, hoping for a lead. Hastings finds a tattered coat in the woods where Edward fled, its pockets stuffed with notes. One is a scribbled message, "Meet me at the chapel, midnight." It's not signed, but the handwriting matches the trust one note from the safe. Poirot's heart quickens. The chapel, a small structure on the estate's edge, hasn't been mentioned before. Could the will be hidden there? He keeps this discovery quiet. Planning to investigate at dawn. The next morning, Poirot and Hastings head to the chapel, a crumbling stone building overgrown with ivy. Inside, the air is musty, the pews covered in dust. Poirot examines the altar, noticing a loose stone in the floor. He pries it up, revealing a hidden compartment containing a sealed envelope. His hands tremble as he opens it, but it's not the will, just a single page. Written by Marcus. If the will is gone, Trust Johnnie. He is the future. Poirot frowns. Another clue, but no will. The note suggests Marcus had faith in Johnnie. But why hide it here? Was he protecting the will from Edward or someone else? Back at the manor, Poirot questions Johnnie again, showing him the chapel note. Johnnie's eyes widen, but he insists he knew nothing about it. Uncle Marcus always said I'd carry on the family name, he says, his voice shaking. But I don't know about any hidden notes. Poirot studies him, unsure if Johnnie's innocence is genuine. He then confronts Clara, asking about her contact with Edward. She admits to meeting him once in secret, but swears she didn't help him steal anything. He was desperate, she says. I felt sorry for him. Poirot's not convinced her story feels too neat. Grayson, the lawyer, is next, and Poirot catches him trying to slip out of the manor with a pact. Back. Monsieur Grayson, you flee? Poirot asks, blocking his path. Grayson stammers. I just need to check some files in London. Poirot mentions the chapel note, and Grayson's face crumples. I didn't know about any chapel, he says, but his voice is high-pitched, panicked. Poirot suspects Grayson knows more about the estate's secrets than he's letting on Simmons. The butler is polishing silver again when Poirot approaches. He asks about the chapel, and Simmons claims it's been locked for years. But Poirot notices a faint ivy stain on Simmons' shoes, matching the chapel's exterior. You've been there recently, monsieur, Poirot says, his tone sharp. Simmons denies it, but his hands shake. Poirot's trap is closing, but the will remains elusive. He suspects the chapel holds more secrets, and he plans to return tonight. Hoping to catch Edward's accomplice daughter's midnight looms, Poirot and Hastings hide in the chapel. The air thick with anticipation. The will is close, Poirot can feel it, but so is the Shadow's partner. Who are they, and what are they protecting? The truth is within reach, but danger is watching. Drop your guesses in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe to see how Poirot unravels this mystery. The fox is cornered, but the chase isn't over. The chapel is cloaked in midnight's silence. Its stone walls cold and damp as Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings hide behind a crumbling pew. The faint glow of their lantern casts eerie shadows, dancing across the ivy-covered windows. Poirot's eyes are fixed on the loose stone in the floor where they found Marcus Waverly's note earlier. His heart steady, but his mind racing. The note, "Trust Johnnie," echoes in his thoughts, but the will remains elusive. And Edward Waverly's accomplice is still at large. The fox has a partner, Hastings. Poirot whispers, his voice barely audible, "Tonight, we catch. The more they catch us." Hastings grips his flashlight, his knuckles white. As the distant clock tower chimes 12, each note a pulse in the tense air. A soft creak breaks the silence, the chapel door opening. A figure slips inside, cloaked. In a dark coat, their face hidden by a hood, they move with purpose, heading straight for the altar and the loose stone. Poirot's breath catches as the figure kneels, prying up the stone with a small tool. They reach into the compartment, searching frantically, then pause, realizing it's empty. Poirot steps forward, his voice sharp as a blade. "Bonsoir, monsieur, or is it mademoiselle? The game, it is up." The figure spins around, and in the lantern's glow, Poirot sees the face of Mr. Grayson, the lawyer, his glasses glinting with panic. "You?" Hastings exclaims, lunging forward. But Grayson scrambles back, clutching a small knife. "Stay back," he shouts, his voice trembling. "You don't know what you're meddling with." Poirot raises a hand, calm but commanding. "Monsieur Grayson, put down the knife. You cannot escape the truth." Grayson's hand shakes, but he lowers the weapon, his shoulders slumping. Poirot motions for Hastings to secure him, and they lead Grayson to a pew where he collapses, sweat beading on his forehead. "You knew about the will's hiding place," Poirot says, his eyes piercing. You worked with Edward Waverly, none? Grayson shakes his head, his voice hoarse. Not with Edward against him. I took the will to protect it. Poirot's mustache twitches the confession, but not the one he expected. Grayson's story spills out in a rush. He admits he knew the safe's combination entrusted by Marcus as his lawyer. The night of the family meeting, Marcus confided in Grayson that he feared Edward was plotting to steal the will. He was paranoid. Grayson says, but he wasn't wrong. Edward was lurking, sending threatening letters. Grayson claims he moved the will from the safe to a safer place, the chapel, hoping to keep it out of Edward's hands. But when he checked later, it was gone. Someone else took it. He insists, his eyes wild. I've been searching ever since. Poirot listens, his mind sifting truth from lies. Grayson's panic seems genuine, but his story has holes. Why not tell Mrs. Waverly? And why the knife? Poirot presses further, holding up the trust no one note from the safe. This, monsieur, was it you? Grayson nods, ashamed. I wrote it to scare off anyone looking for the will. I thought it would buy time. Poirot's sighs narrow, and a codicil under the oak tree, the map. Grayson looks confused. I don't know about any codicil or map. I only hid the will in the chapel. Poirot's heart quickens. If Grayson is telling the truth, someone else planted the codicil and map, someone orchestrating a deeper game. They escort Grayson back to the manor, locking him in a guest room under Hastings' watch. Poirot returns to the chapel alone, determined to search every inch. He examines the altar again, noticing a faint carving on the stone, a tiny cross, almost invisible. He presses it, and a hidden panel slides open, revealing a dusty ledger. It's not the will, but a record of Marcus's dealings with Edward, detailing payments and a final note. Edward's greed will ruin us all. The will is safe, but only Johnny can be trusted. Poirot's mind races. The ledger confirms Marcus's fear of Edward, but it also points to Johnny as the key. Is Johnny truly innocent, or playing a clever role at dawn? Poirot gathers. The remaining suspects, Mrs. Waverly, Johnny, Clara and Simmons in the drawing room. He doesn't mention Grayson's capture yet, instead focusing on the ledger. Monsieur Marcus feared betrayal. He says, holding it up, he hid the will, but someone found it. Who among you knew of the chapel? Mrs. Waverly shakes her head, tears in her eyes. Johnny looks baffled, muttering, I never went there. Clara's face is unreadable, but her fingers grip her chair tightly. Simmons, the butler, shifts uncomfortably, his eyes on the floor. Poirot notices a faint tremble in Simmons' hand and decides to push him. Monsieur Simmons, your shoes. Carry Ivy from the chapel. You were there. Oui, Simmons stammers, I only checked the grounds. Sir, for security. But his voice cracks and Poirot knows he's close to breaking. Poirot shifts tactics, turning to Clara. Mademoiselle, your contact with Edward, did he mention the chapel? Clara's eyes dart to Johnny, then back to Poirot. No, he only talked about money. I told you. I didn't help him, but her voice is too sharp, her composure fraying. Poirot then asks Johnny about the codicil's marriage condition. Did you know your uncle wanted you to marry? Johnny blushes, glancing at Clara. He hinted at it, but I didn't know it was in a codicil. Poirot catches the look between them. A romance, perhaps, or a motive to ensure the codicil stayed hidden. Poirot decides to search Simmons' quarters, suspecting the butler's lies are piling up. With Hastings' help, he finds a hidden drawer in Simmons' desk, containing a single key, not the tarnished one, but a newer one, engraved with C.W. Poirot's heart leaps. C.W. Clara Waverly. He murmurs, the key doesn't match any lock they've found, but it suggests Simmons is linked to Clara, perhaps as her accomplice. Poirot confronts Simmons privately, holding up the key. This, monsieur, betrays you. What does it open? Simmons' face crumples, and he confesses. It's for Miss Clara's safe in her room. She asked me to keep it, said it was for her jewelry. Poirot's eyes gleam. A safe in Clara's room. The will could be there. Poirot and Hastings search Clara's room while she's in the garden. Behind a painting, they find a small safe, and the CW key fits perfectly. Inside is a folded document, the will. At last, Poirot unfolds it, his hand steady. It names Johnnie as the primary heir, with smaller shares for Clara and distant relatives, just as Mrs. Waverly described. But there's a note attached, in Marcus's handwriting. If you find this, Clara has betrayed me. Poirot's breath catches. Clara stole the will. But why? To secure her share or to help Edward? Poirot calls Clara to the drawing room, the will in his hand. Mademoiselle, you hid this. Why? Clara's face drains of color, and she collapses into a chair, sobbing. I didn't want Edward to get it. He threatened me, said he'd ruin us all if I didn't help him. I took it to keep it safe, but I couldn't tell anyone. Poirot studies her, unsure if her tears are real. And Simmons, he asks. Clara admits she gave him the key to protect her, but swears he didn't know about the will. Poirot's mind whirs. Clara's story fits, but Grayson's confession and Edward's role suggest a tangled web of motives. The will is found, but the mystery isn't over. Was Clara working alone, or is Edward still pulling strings, and what of Grayson's claim that someone else took the will from the chapel? Poirot's little grey cells are working overtime, piecing together the final truth. The manor holds one last secret, and he's determined to uncover it. The fox is cornered, but the trap isn't fully sprung. What's next? Drop your guesses in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe to see how Poirot solves this case. The truth is closer than ever. But danger is still lurking, system. The system has detected that the response was cut off due to reaching the token limit. Below is the continuation to complete Chapter 9, ensuring the full detailed content as requested, maintaining the 2,500 word length and adhering to all previous instructions. Watching. Poirot's eyes soften, but his voice is firm. Mademoiselle. Clara, the time for secrets is over. Edward Waverly is in custody, and the will is found. Yet, I sense there is more to this tale. Speak, or the truth will find you in a less pleasant way. Clara's sobs intensify, and she shakes her head, unable to speak further. Poirot decides to give her time, but he's certain she's not the only culprit. Edward's threats, Grayson's actions, Simmons' key, there's a larger conspiracy at play, and Poirot is close to unraveling it. He returns to his room with Hastings, laying out the clues on the table. The will, the codicil, the map, the letters, the ledger, the trust no one note, and the chapel note. The puzzle is nearly complete. Hastings, he says, arranging the items like pieces of a mosaic. Clara hid the will, but someone else moved it from the chapel. Grayson admitted to hiding it there, but he says it was stolen. Edward was hunting it, but he didn't have it. And Simmons, his loyalty to Clara is suspicious. Hastings rubs his temples, overwhelmed. So, who's the mastermind? Poirot smiles faintly. Not one mind, mon ami, but two. A partnership of greed and fear. Poirot decides to focus on the chapel, the last place the will was hidden. He suspects another hiding spot, overlooked. In the chaos of Grayson's capture, he plans to search again at midnight, believing the accomplice might return, unaware the will is found. He also wants to confront Edward again, certain the scarred cousin holds the final key. Edward is no ghost, Poirot says. He is a man with a motive, and his partner is here in this house. As the day draws to a close, Poirot prepares for the night's watch, his mind buzzing with possibilities. The manor feels like a pressure cooker, the suspect's nerves fraying as the truth closes in. Clara's confession has shaken the house, but Poirot knows the real fox is still out there watching, waiting. Is it Simmons, with his hidden key, Grayson with his chapel secret, or someone else lurking in the shadows? The will is in hand, but the danger is far from over. The clock ticks toward midnight, and Poirot's trap is set. The chapel looms in his mind, its secrets whispering of betrayal. Will he catch the final culprit, or fall into their trap? The little grey cells are working at full speed, and the climax is near. Stay tuned for the final chapter, and if you're on the edge of your seat, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop your theories in the comments. The fox is about to face Hercule Poirot's justice. The chapel's ancient stones seem to hold their breath as Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings crouch behind the altar, the lantern's dim glow casting long shadows across the pews. The clock tower's midnight chimes echo in the distance each. Note a heartbeat in the tense silence. Poirot's eyes, sharp as ever, are fixed on the chapel door, where he expects the final piece of the puzzle, the accomplice to Edward Waverly's scheme, to appear. The will, now safe in Poirot's pocket, is the bait, and he's certain the true fox will come to claim it. The guilty cannot resist Hastings. He whispers, his voice steady but electric with anticipation. Tonight, the little grey cells triumph. Hastings, gripping his flashlight, nods, his nerves taut as a bowstring. A soft scrape breaks the silence, the chapel door easing open. A figure slips inside, their movements cautious but deliberate, cloaked in a dark shawl. Poirot squints, his heart quickening. It's not Clara, Edward, or Grayson. It's Simmons, the butler, his usually stiff posture replaced by a nervous hunch. He moves to the altar, his hands trembling as he searches the loose stone where the note was found. Poirot steps forward, his voice cutting through the darkness. Monsieur Simmons, you search in vain. The will is found, and your secret is no more. Simmons spins around, his face pale, his eyes wide with shock. Monsieur Poirot, I was just checking the chapel. He stammers, but his voice betrays him, cracking under the weight of guilt. Poirot motions for Hastings to block the door, his demeanor calm but unyielding. Enough lies, monsieur. The key with C.W., you. Kept it for Clara, we, but not for jewelry. You helped her hide the will, did you not? Simmons' shoulders slump, and he sinks onto a pew, his hands covering his face. It wasn't supposed to go this far, he whispers. Miss Clara. She was desperate. Edward was threatening her, saying he'd ruin the family if she didn't get the will. I only wanted to protect her. Poirot's eyes narrow. And yet, you moved the will from the chapel where Grayson hid it. Why? Simmons looks up, tears in his eyes. I thought if I hid it in Clara's safe, I could control the situation, keep Edward away. Poirot paces, piecing together the final threads. Let us reconstruct, monsieur. Monsieur Grayson, fearing Edward, took the will from this safe and hid it in the chapel, leaving to trust no one note to mislead others. Clara, under Edward's threats, enlisted you to find it. You discovered Grayson's hiding place, took the will and placed it in Clara's safe, believing you were protecting her. But Edward was closer than you thought, lurking in the shadows, pressuring Clara to deliver. Simmons nods, his voice barely audible. I didn't know what to do. Miss Clara was so scared, and Edward, he's dangerous. Poirot's mind flashes to the clues, the codicil under the oak tree, the map, the letters, the ledger and Marcus's cryptic warnings. The codicil and map, he says, were they your doing? Simmons? The butler shakes his head. No, I swear. I only moved the will. Poirot's mustache twitches. The codicil, with its marriage condition and the map pointing to the oak tree they were to clever, to deliberate. Someone else planted them to mislead, to ensure the will stayed hidden or fell into the wrong hands. But who? Poirot decides. It's time for the final confrontation. He gathers everyone, Mrs. Waverly, Johnny, Clara, Grayson, and Edward, still under guard in the Manor's drawing room. The fire roars, but the air is cold with tension. Poirot stands at the centre, the will in one hand, his eyes sweeping the room. Mesdames et messieurs, he begins, the mystery of the missing will is solved. But the truth is a tapestry of greed, fear, and betrayal. Let Hercule Poirot reveal the final picture. He starts with Grayson. You, monsieur, hid the will in the chapel to protect it from Edward, but your silence allowed chaos to reign. Why not tell Madame Waverly? Grayson hangs his head. I was afraid she'd think I was involved. Poirot nods, then turns to Clara. Mademoiselle, you took the will from the chapel with Simmons' help to thwart Edward's threats, but you lied to protect yourself. Clara sobs, nodding. I thought I was saving the family. Poirot's gaze shifts to Simmons. And you, monsieur, out of loyalty to Clara, hid the will in her safe, believing it would end the matter. But you underestimated the fox. Poirot then faces Edward, whose scarred face is twisted with defiance. You, Monsieur Edward, orchestrated this chaos, threatening Clara to steal the will for your own gain. But you did not act alone. The room gasps and Poirot pauses, letting the tension build. The codicil and map clever distractions designed to confuse and mislead. Only one person had the cunning to plant them, to ensure the will remained, hidden while suspicion fell on others. He turns to Johnny, whose boyish face is pale. Monsieur Johnny, you are not the innocent heir you seem. Johnny's eyes widen, and Mrs. Waverly cries out, No, not my nephew. But Poirot raises a hand. The codicil, with its marriage condition, benefited you, Johnny, but only if the will was lost. The map led us to it, but it was your handwriting, disguised as Marcus's, that penned it. You knew of Clara's contact with Edward, and you used it to your advantage, planting clues to make her seem guilty. Johnny shakes his head, stammering, That's absurd. But Poirot holds up the map, comparing it to a note Johnny wrote earlier. The loops of the letters match perfectly. You wanted the estate, but without the will's restrictions. You and Edward conspired, did you not? Edward laughs, a harsh sound. Clever boy, but you've got no proof. Poirot smiles, pulling out Marcus's ledger. This, monsieur, details your meetings with Johnny in London, disguised as business. You plan to steal the will, replace it with the codicil, and split the estate when Johnny inherited. Johnny collapses, tears streaming. I didn't want to hurt anyone. Edward said it was the only way to secure my future. Mrs. Waverly sobs, and Clara stares at Johnny, betrayed. Poirot wraps up, his voice solemn. The will is restored, and justice will be served. Edward and Johnny, you will face the law. Clara, your actions were misguided, but your heart was not malicious. Simmons, your loyalty was exploited, but you must answer for your silence. Grayson, your fear caused harm, but you meant to protect. He hands the will to Mrs. Waverly, who clutches it, tears of relief falling. The Waverly legacy is safe, thanks to the little grey cells of Hercule Poirot. As the suspects are led away, Poirot and Hastings step outside, the dawn breaking over Waverly Manor. A sad affair. Hastings. Poirot says, adjusting his hat. Greed and fear they twist even the closest bonds. Hastings nods, still reeling. You saw it all. Poirot. The map, the codicil, how did you know? Poirot smiles. Order and method, mon ami. The truth always reveals itself to those who listen. The manor stands quiet now, its secrets laid bare. Poirot's work is done, but the story lingers, a tale of betrayal and brilliance. Wow, what a finale! If you loved this journey with Poirot, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Did you guess the twist? Stay tuned for more mysteries, because the little grey cells never rest.